So we're with Mina Martinez, Chief Etiquette Officer and founder of Prestige Protocol. And I'm very excited about today, Mina. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about etiquette and the etiquette of doing calls like this. How do you prepare? How do you get through all of this? But let me just tell people about you a little bit. So you have been in the etiquette business for over 22 years because you were a senior manager for a large organization. And for the last 19 years of this, you have been certified as an etiquette specialist. You've spoken to and trained over 12,000 individuals, and that's comprised of students and professionals. And I've had the opportunity to actually witness you personally doing some of the classes for some of the students, and then I've seen you do some classes for international etiquette when you travel internationally. So what I love about what you do, growing up in Colombia, I had to have etiquette courses, you know, how do you sit at the table and all of that. But you take this to a whole nother level, Mina. Yes. You bring people in, you teach them how to dine with kings and queens and presidents of companies, and understand how to show up for an interview, how to show up for different things. And right now with COVID, we have pivoted to doing all of our meetings online. And so I love the fact that you are now teaching people how to show up to a meeting, how to prepare for a meeting, having to do with Zoom and online and all of that. So welcome, Mina.
Well, thankful and grateful, Dr. Betty. It's important that you, have an interest and for inviting me to share during this applicable time. You know, it's just so crucial. It really, really is. So awesome to be here to join you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you're going to be giving 15 tips. You send me 15 tips, and I think a good way to do this is let's focus on Zoom meetings, because I think that's near and dear to just about everybody that's going to be watching this. So the preparation, and then the planning, and then the participation. So let's start with the preparation. How do you prepare? What's the best way in your mind to prepare for the Zoom meetings? And what are the trends that you're seeing?
Well, you know, etiquette starts from the beginning, and with preparation, I think it's one of the most important things that you need to do this way in advance so that you could be ready depending if you're the host or if you're just going to be a participant. In either case, there's the main thing I put as the first 15 at this point, because there's many more, but I selected 15 in this case, is, dressing appropriate, having a business appropriate representation. And what I mean by that is depending right now, the huge shift has been from business to personal virtual attendance, right? And so regardless of what it is, I think that the business appropriate is what's most important than anything. And there's been situations that I've seen that, could be very embarrassing. And one of the things that I find is if you're going to, let's say this is a class that you're going to pay into, I think there are audiences and participants that would like to be appropriately dressed and fit the environment. Okay, you can never be overdressed. The best thing to do is to kind of do that. So it really depends on which audience you're going to have and where your platforms are going to be. If you're not going to be seen, why? Why do you put your photo on there and just not be part of that? That gives a whole different message as well. So we're going to talk about that. But I think that in the situation where you have to be, important in coming to prepare is a number of things. So you're going to have your business attire. You're going to know how to groom, because grooming matters. There's going to be an opportunity for you to display a successful environment, okay? You're going to need to know how to minimize noisy distractions. Create your proper lighting, okay? You be camera ready, position friendly. You have to be all this preparation. And then I added a couple more things to that. So make sure you turn on your webcam. in advance. Know that you're going to be connected. Know that you have the right Wi-Fi, that you're in the closest room that where that, you know, modem is at. And looking at your phone and at your laptop, you know, those are some key things. The most important thing, and this goes to later, it's the participation part, is be 100% present. But for the beginning of what I just said, that is preparation. And so,
So tell me about business attire. So let's start with this. We have, my goodness, we have Linda, thank you so much, and Morgan are on, Maria's on, and Corey's on, and Gabrielle. Hi again, everybody. So if you have any questions for Mina, go ahead and ask them. I'm monitoring Facebook just to make sure, and Jose Aguero is also watching. So we're getting a little bit of an audience. So many of us are in meetings on Zoom for business, and it is so important to show up as you were in person. This is from Linda. So let's talk about how you show up, because you talked a little bit. How do you create the proper lighting? Corey's asking.
Okay, so we want to go that route first, just answering the questions. Do you want to go?
I want to make sure that we answer some of the questions. Everybody on Facebook, if we don't get to all your questions, because we've got 30 minutes and now we have 22 minutes left. If we don't answer all your questions, go ahead and write them down. And Mina, I'm going to ask you to come back to Facebook and answer the questions afterwards. Maria did this for us on Sunday, and it worked out really well. So let's start with the preparation. You said business attire, grooming. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so preparation, for instance, in being ready when you have a last minute situation that happens, you have to take a phone call. Try to be ready a whole hour before anything that you're going to do virtually. Okay. I say hour because things happen. It happens on the spur of the second moment, like it did before you and I got on here.
Yes.
You got an emergency call and you told me what it, you know, Mina, give me a few seconds. You don't know what's going to happen. And so what I mean by that, being prepared, have your grooming, your hair done, whatever it is that you need to do, because the last thing that you want to do is to have hand to face contact. You know, you don't want to constantly be doing like this and wiping your eyes and, oh, I see so many different things. I could go on, I really can, and share everything. But groom yourself ahead of time, please. Don't put your finger in your mouth trying to take out some food that you just finished eating. Little things like that make a big difference. So yes, I will answer that on the Facebook.
They do.
Like. Yes.
So yeah, nothing worse than a host in their bathing suit in their pool making a pitch to sign up for this program. And yes, that is a true story. I've seen that. So tell me about the environment. How should the environment be?
Okay, so that's a key thing as well too, because you don't want to have an offensive background. You want to make sure that you have either, what's appropriate could be a logo if you have a company, but what you don't want to do is put everything behind you that they're going to be looking at that instead of you. And more than anything, keep in mind who's your host. Don't distract your host from, you know, being what the message is going to be. I mean, be savvy about that. Try to be comfort, because it's not your meeting. I'm talking right now when the host is someone other than you.
Yes.
You need to make sure that you're present there. They know you're there because you clicked in and so forth. Now, keep in mind, they might also have a different type of virtual setup where they have the gallery display. You have others watching. And I've been in galleries from 4 people minimum to 45 just last weekend. And it was a different thing. It was a birthday party. But it was a birthday celebration in a way different way than you would think, you know, no drinking involved, no eating involved. So there are certain standards that get set ahead of time. And if you can, prepare that ahead of time and let your guests know what you expect and what you should not have. Because you don't know who's watching you when you're going to have guests that are going to say, oh, Dr. Betty has this. I think I'd like to turn in on this. And then they look at your audience. They're going to say, who is she talking to? Who are they? You don't know this, people. You don't know this, but it comes back to you. So it's important that you have that visibility and make sure. Right now is a perfect example. We have to be 1.5 to 2 feet apart from the actual display of what you're using. Right now we have our
2 feet apart. Remember that?
Yes, exactly. We're 2 feet apart. We don't want to see just your chin, or we don't want to see that you're lying down. Exactly. Lying down is not at all acceptable.
Around your chest.
Yeah.
Because you want people to see enough of your body that you can move and they can see your motion, but they're not losing you in trying to see, okay, what's out there. You just want to portray your persona.
Correct. And another successful part of that environment is that know how your cues are going to come about. Do you have your speakers on ahead of time? Preparation again. Don't try to come forward because it's going to distract either the presenter or your other participants are all going to look at you. What just happened? Oh, I just stood up. If you're going to stand up to the side. Do not stand up straight in front of the camera and turn around. We don't care to see that back of you. And that's what I said about disrespectful. And it was not a cool scene because the person tripped over some wiring behind the seat he had. He went down and so did his equipment. Do you follow me?
Yes.
There are different ways to enter. And so practice that, Yes. There's nothing more than I want you to be encouraged after this, that you practice your own and see what's going to happen. Get ready for that next event that you're going to have. So again, going back to the virtual, it's good to have a green screen. You can have that, but the kind that is recommended is the kind that's, they call it the chair virtual, because different conference web platforms allow you to be in proper view. Others are not recommended because they're distracting. And I've seen this a lot. The San Francisco Bridge, if that's behind you and that's okay, that's calm for you, it might be calm for someone else. But if you have waterfall and you don't hear the water because you're on mute, but as soon as you go off on mute, you have the sound coming in. Sound is a disruptor. So hopefully that answers.
Mina, something that's being brought up, and since you talked about the green screen, I've seen it where people put the background on the computer without having a green screen behind them. Can you talk about that? Because that's very distracting, and what the difference is when you have the green screen and when you don't, when you utilize the background?
Yeah, well, virtual backgrounds are not recommended. And I got this from the higher sources. They are not, because you may disappear. It happened to me, and that's by just a fluke. I was listening to a concert, and I hit something that I was on my mobile phone because I didn't have the laptop connected, and out came my portrait from something that I had on there, and I said, I didn't want that. And I couldn't get, and here I am in the middle of this concert thingy, and that's what they got to see that. So in other words, double me. And as I moved, half my face went away.
Yes, it goes away.
Yeah, so that's not recommended. Yeah,
it distracts from the message. Absolutely.
You have to remember that there's a perception of a pleasant sense of depth between you and what you're doing. So practice it. And by all means, don't go forward and try to speak, because you can hear yourself okay. But if you go like this and, oh, Dr. Betty, all of a sudden, everyone's going to focus on you because and I see that a lot happening.
Yeah.
So those are just a few things. There's so much to answer.
Can I ask you something else? Because I've seen some people that are not really comfortable with having the screen, and maybe and I don't know if it's because they don't feel comfortable and they feel like the audience is so far, so they need to kind of stand away. How does one get to feel comfortable speaking to a screen? Because not everybody has a lot of experience speaking to a screen. How does someone get comfortable?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, your host is clearly the person who you should be paying attention to and have your eyes focused to them. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind that maybe that moment is a serenity, between you and that host. Don't look at all the other ones, because that could be very distracting to you, and you're going to try to do what they're doing. You don't know that they're doing that right. So the best thing to do is to feel very confident that you're going to participate with this. That's another part of participation that I was going to say, because, we have the preparation, the planning, and the participation.
Yes.
So there's a lot to be covered on that, but just remember who your key presenter is, and keep in mind why you're on there. Did you get invited? Or did you get last minute say, oh, I'm interested in this, and then you just clicked on?
Yes.
Some of these are private.
Yes.
Keep in mind, we have a lot of privacy and security issues to talk about.
Yes, we do. Something else that's being brought up on Facebook is the idea of somebody eating in the middle of a presentation or in the middle of a meeting. Also, where do you look? Do you look at the screen or do you look at the person? Because when I'm looking at you, I'm looking right at you right now. And so I'm looking at a little green light that is right in front of my computer. If I want to, and my eyes tend to want to go to you, and you are in the middle of my screen to my left. And so right now, if I'm talking to you, Mina, I'm talking directly to you, and I'm talking to the audience on Facebook. And so how do I make it so that it's okay to look down to you and then come back? Where do I look?
The most important thing that I think has worked for me, and I think that I see with my participants as well, is that first of all, you need to know if your host, what that precedence is going to be. Are you going to be able to eat? Is this a cocktail hour? Can you bring your wine in? Can you show that you're drinking water? We're on such a comfort zone right now in the safety of your own home. So just remember what you're participating with. And I do not make it a habit to eat during any visual. I've seen spills. I've seen something crunch away and it's stuck on their face here for a nice while the whole time was going on. Person was conversing like nothing. And you know, somebody went like this and they thought, oh, they're just going like this. They didn't realize, hey, you got, you know, mustard. So there's so important that you understand. Try not to eat if you can. If there's a scheduled time that you have to, try to find out in advance from your host, or maybe the host, depending on who that's going to be, can set that precedence and say, no snacking, please. And just imagine, we only have half an hour. Can it wait? You know, if those that go for an hour or 4 hours, if it's a WebEx, you can eat all the jolly things you want because you're not being seen. You see? So there's a difference there. And if you're going to not be muted, that's another part of this thing too, is be careful because you're going to be recognizing the power of the simple eye contact. That's another one of my 15 tips. And connecting virtually is one of the most significant assets of your body language. Your body language speaks a lot, and that eating is part of it. So I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. I'm sorry.
Interesting, because one could say, I have a meeting every morning at 6:45, and you come to it. And it's an early morning, and I want people to feel comfortable. And so I, on purpose, have a cup of tea or water or coffee or something in it. And I do that because I want people to feel comfortable enough to be able to feel like, okay, I'm coming in, it's a prayer and it's a motivational thing. We don't have it very formal, but I prepare every morning way before I come in. My meeting doesn't start until 6:45. My preparation, after I'm dressed and made up and everything ready, at 6 a.m. I come to the area, I make sure that I have everything prepared, and right next to me, I do some drawing. So I have my colored pencils, my notebook, everything right in front of me, and I leave everything ready. And then I come in about 25 minutes before the time, and I turn it on, and I have music. So all of the ambiance, how does the computer look? Do I have the right lighting? Even though I checked it out the night before, you have to make sure that everything is ready.
Yes.
And then on purpose, I use the music because the music calms people down, and I open it up before we even start. I didn't do that with this particular meeting. I didn't start before because I have a guest and it's different. So I give people a time. And so really putting myself in the audience's shoes for me is really important. Tell me about the cup of coffee, because I always have a cup with me in the mornings. If it's later on in the day, I don't, because now we're in business attire. This is a business meeting. It's a business environment. So it's different. But tell me about the cup of coffee. Should I stop drinking coffee in the morning?
Well, you just keep in mind that you have to be professional at all times, regardless of what your event that is that you're doing virtually, okay? Mm-hmm. Others are going to see and they're going to say, oh, they're not moving, they're not this, they're not that, you know, and they don't have somebody coming behind them and just doing things, because there's so many distractions that are going on.
Yes.
To your question on the coffee, if you would like to address that to your audience before, and you just, you know, casually say it, or you do it in advance in the notice that you're sending out, you know, please join us with your tea or cup of coffee. they'll know right there that you're saying, okay, this is great. I can do this. For those that can't, because I saw a lot of that at the beginning, and I said, wow, this is like it's a coffee morning, come and coffee with me type event,
Yes,
as
yes,
opposed to a prayer. But if you open it up, then you just laid your precedence. You just
yes,
open it to them. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you're right. And you're not talking about bringing your cereal on board where you can't see it and
Oh
see it at the
no,
same time. That's what
that's
I'm
different.
saying.
Then you have to worry about
It's
things getting on your teeth and all of that.
just like I said, look attentive at all times if we can, And if you have to
Yes.
take that last bite of whatever you're having, toast, or you're having that last, what is it, the sip of tea or whatever, try and do it before in our case, the prayer group. And can you hold off half an hour until you take it again?
Absolutely.
Others just do it over and over and over. And what's going to happen with that? I think we all know.
Oh,
You
yes.
go. So there goes your window, and there goes your game. And anyway, you could just so many different.
Okay, so no coffee, no more coffee in the morning. I got it. Thank you, Mina. Thank you so much. Because you're right, it could spill, and then what's going to happen when it spills? Then there goes your computer and everything else. So, and here I'm thinking I'm going to just set a really comfortable tone.
Mm-hmm.
And but setting a comfortable tone, I can actually do that just by letting people know, hey, be comfortable, but this is okay. Okay, good to know.
What I think is very important too that we're highlighting is some key points of this is because it makes a significant difference for one's image. Okay, so you sit yourself there and go from there. And
Yes.
one other very important thing I'd like for everyone to, listen to this, and maybe it'll resonate with you, is when I talk about dress business appropriate, that carries a lot of weight, okay? I'm going to just share this example as I had mentioned earlier. So it's a virtual interview, okay? The applicant was not properly dressed, but yet he aced his interview, all right? He aced it. What he didn't expect was the last question. And that last question was going to be, can you please stand up? So he looked back to his sides like he had somebody there, right? And he like turned his eyes and went like this, kind of like, are they asking me to stand up? So he already had something going on that he didn't feel comfortable with, right?
Yes.
So what do you think? What do you think?
He was
the perfect candidate, but he was not so in his appearance because he was just half dressed. He had his boxers on, and that disqualified him. So the result?
Absolutely.
Lost the job opportunity. Don't let that happen to you. Here in Southern California, we have earthquakes, and if we have to get up and go, you're going to go in what you're wearing. So keep that in mind. Two different things, Mother Nature, and then what you could have avoided just because you thought you were so cool. No, virtual appearance, business appropriate. I don't know how else to translate that, but you have to be prepared. And I think that that's important. And you're going to get used to it as we're going to do this for months and months to come.
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to add one more thing. You know what I do for myself is that, and I did this religiously, this is pre-COVID, by the way. I put out the outfits I'm going to wear for the week so that I know that if something comes up in between that, okay, I'm probably too underdressed for this. Now I have two things that I have to do, and one of them is a formal dinner with Dr. Betty, and she's going to introduce me to someone. Do I know that that's an interview? Do I know that that's going to be an opportunity for a job? So I said, there's the 5 things I'm wearing Monday through, the work schedule that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And it works so well to put these things in advance because now you don't have to worry about an hour before the meeting, what am I wearing? Because you have it hanging on, I do on my door.
Yes, I do the same.
5 outfits, and you know what you're wearing. Just make sure you have the appropriate, and right now we're in the comfort of your home. Even some little, flats might work. But just go like if you're going to go naturally to a...
Absolutely. And you know why I dress up? And I'll tell you, this is something, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. Even though I'm in my home, I get up really early, I take a shower, I put my makeup on, I do my hair, and then I come to work. I do it dressed fully because I want to feel really good. And especially when I'm online with someone, I want to be able to show up 100% for them because I'm giving 100%. And if I'm not giving 100% and I feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's going to show. Let's face it, the camera, one time I did a photo shoot, my very first formal photo shoot. I was in my early 20s. No, it was before I was in my early 20s. And I remember the gentleman who was doing the photo shoot, he said, I want you to think of this. And I said, what does that have to do with anything? He said, however you're thinking, that's what's going to show up on camera. And believe it or not, it shows up. So if I'm uncomfortable, it's going to show up in the camera. And then the person in the audience is going to feel it. So it's the same thing, isn't it, Mina?
Yes, very much so it is. And the reason I'm saying about, and I keep stressing this about look attentive and so forth, is because you have to give the courtesy and respect to your host, okay? And the other participants as well. If you all did that, you would have a professional virtual meeting. And it just takes little steps to get there, of which probably we have, less time to do right now. But and I also have one of these tips that I say, toward the end, you want to know about speaking up. And that's just having to just basically proper projection of your voice, not having to come forward and speak like this because the microphone is so close. You're okay like this. In fact, this is the proper way to do that. And then there's nothing more than connecting, the words that you create. Others are listening to it. So, be mindful of that and don't care about others. Listen to you, because you could be an example for many people. And stress also impacts your vocal quality.
Yes, it does.
Okay? Dr. Betty, you just finished saying it, and I think that is so important. We're all so stressed, okay? And we go from one, and we jump. Sometimes you have 4 or 5 of these virtual things going on, right? No time to eat and what have you. So you got to remember that, your speech can get accelerated. It'll sound off, and you'll sound off like you're hesitant. You're very hesitant. So what is that conveying? What is that conveying? That you self-doubt and lack of confidence?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important that you speak up. And body language, please be very careful of that. Good posture, stay back, okay? Don't be slouched out. And I put an article on LinkedIn, and it was purposely done this way so that you can see the fatigue after a 5-hour business meeting that turned out to be half Zoom, and the other part, okay, now we got to go to our departments and because it was an action item that came out of it. And I witnessed this with my own eyes, and I thought, you haven't eaten for 3 hours.
No
and
wonder,
I'm like, wow. And so this is the look that you're getting now, because you're a little tired from the back.
Yes.
You haven't had time to excuse yourself. And if you were, there's a way to excuse yourself, by the way, in what you're going to say. And because you're speaking, I don't want to interrupt and say, people don't want to know where you're going. If your little window comes up and you have the rectangle with your photo, appropriate photo, okay, scenery, whatever you like, that means that there's been an interruption, and it's by no fault of theirs maybe, but be respectful with that, and do try to come back from the side of your seat, wherever that is, and not front. We don't care to see you standing up and seeing everything. We just want to see you
come in from the
and
side.
sit down.
So Mina, thank you so much. We've spent 30 minutes with Mina, who is just an incredible human being, and you can see the care that she takes to really help us bring our very best to the table when we're having conversation. In this particular time, it's when we're having conversation virtually. We've spent a lot of time on preparing, on getting ready, and some of the highlights that I got were the business attire, dress properly all the way through, not just halfway. We've learned about that. Doing your grooming way ahead of time. Don't do it right before. Display a successful environment. Utilize a green screen behind you if you're going to use a virtual background, but don't use a virtual background unless you absolutely have to. The proper lighting so that you can have lighting in your face. You talked about being camera ready, being position ready, making sure that the Wi-Fi is appropriate and available so that you don't have the Wi-Fi situations. And all of this is in preparation for coming into a virtual environment. Next time, we're going to talk about how do you participate during the actual meeting? How do you host a meeting? How do you bring people in? How do you come in and out of a meeting that is a long meeting? I had some comments about longer meetings, so we'll talk about longer meetings. Today, we've spent 30 minutes with Mina Martinez, and thank you so much for being with us, Mina. Any last minute words?
Well, I just want to share, my information is available on LinkedIn, and it's my walking bio there for now. I do have the website. It's under construction now that we're, having to transition into the virtual of everything. I'm converting all of that, so that's taking some time. But I am available, and I do get requests to speak. So I have one coming up June 17th. I think I gave you that information, Dr. Betty.
Yes.
And what's going to follow after that is I'm going to also have opportunity to celebrate the impact of what some of my students have for the past 4 years with no graduation coming. I've been working on that too. It's going to be from my home, and everyone that's going to participate is going to be from different places. But it's a way of recognizing them and shining their light, because there's nothing more deceptive than not being able to have.
Yes.
Not everybody gets to have a drive-by, celebration, right? And they're at home saying, okay, now what? There's a lot of sadness, because here they're prepared, they're professionals ready to go to the workforce. What workforce, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
we could talk about that for a whole other session too.
Yes,
but
absolutely, we could.
I'll invite you to all that. All that information will be on my LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So LinkedIn, look for Mina Martinez,
Yes.
and her company name is Prestige Protocol, and she's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Prestige Protocol. Mina, thank you so much for being with us. Look for us again next Tuesday at the same time at 10 a.m. It seems to be a pretty good time for folks on Facebook. If you have any questions and you're on Facebook, go ahead and put them on the comments, and Mina will come in herself and she will answer the questions you have. I also copied Mina on the actual post, so if you want to go to her own post and ask her direct questions, feel free to do so. And then she wrote an article that was just posted in LinkedIn, in her LinkedIn profile. So if you'll go to her LinkedIn profile, Mina Martinez, Chief Etiquette Officer of Prestige Protocol, and read that article. And please share. We want everybody to know about this. Nobody that I know is doing these courses, Mina, so you're one of a kind, and I knew that before. Thank you so much, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.